Going live on YouTube now.
Oh.
Get that out of the way.
Put any makeup on for
You look
this.
fine.
I did put some makeup on after I cried off my makeup earlier. So.
Why did we cry off our makeup earlier?
Oh, the Austin East stuff. Just really depressing.
It is a thing. All right, here we go, guys. All right, welcome, everybody. We got a special episode of Almost in Agreement. I have Miss Lauren Rider in from City Council, and we're going to talk about some City Council stuff. But we have an extra special edition of Cousin Mary and Husband Will. Will's husband, or Will is Mary's husband, not Lauren's husband. Anyway, details, people, details. It's all relationships. But they're from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and so all this baseball talk has always been Fort Wayne. You know, the Fort Wayne Stadium. We're just copying the Fort Wayne model and all this different stuff. So I figure last time we had Lauren on, she mentioned it, that she had some family up there, and we could maybe use them as some research persons, and so we're doing it. And in a more special, exciting news, we have our first official sponsor on the show. It is 865 Autos LLC. That is 865 Autos. Their phone number is 865-269-5127 there in Clinton, Tennessee. 865autos.com. They have a special for our listeners on a 2016 GMC Denali Duramax Diesel 4x4 power running board, sunroof, 7-inch lift kit, 37-inch mud tires, 82,000 miles, listed at $58,995. Tell them that I sent you, and you get $1,000 off. Go look for Cole. Tell them that Seth from Almost in Agreement sent you. Thank you to 865 Autos. So, paying the bills out of the way. Let's get on to business. Let's talk baseball.
I just bought a new-to-me used car. I missed.
They're too late. I've been trying to sell them on running an ad for me forever. But
if only a few weeks ago they could have caught me as a
Did
shopper.
Did you get a Volkswagen?
No, I got the same that I had.
I mean, I could see you in that truck.
In that truck?
Yeah, that truck is very you.
I have a Volkswagen van that I'm driving to Ohio this weekend. So, there's that too.
You know what's close to Ohio?
Indiana. I know. But I'm going to be on the other side of the state. I'm going to be in Athens.
Okay.
So Athens,
Ohio is not small, so.
Ohio's not that small? Is that what you said?
No, I mean, I'm saying like it would be a trip all the way across to come to Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
I drove from Indianapolis to, where did we go? Columbus to Indianapolis.
It's a trek.
And I thought that was going to be a quick one, and it was not.
It's not. Ohio's a big one.
No, not even.
I was confusing what Mary said. I was up until 1:30 in the morning working on taxes. So, I'm drinking my coffee here.
Taxes are taxes. Well,
yeah.
Mary said she's got some wine out. I've got a beer.
Okay.
I have a bottle of wine, a nice Merlot here that I got for free from somebody if you would like a glass.
Is it like product sponsorship or something? No.
No, they didn't pay me. I got that from my day job for Christmas. It's the job
Mine's
perks.
from Trader Joe's. Maybe you can get that sponsorship.
All right, well, I'll take it. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to stay local. Most of our shows all local listeners, so national brands don't land as well.
Yeah.
They want more bang for their buck out of me. Anyway, my sales pitch is not what we're here to do. 865autos.com. Anyway, so we got you guys on because we want to talk about the baseball thing, because we every time it's brought up, every news article about it, it's the whatever the team you guys have. I'm sorry, I forgot the name of your team, but it's we're copying this model with the way it is community oriented versus other models that are out there. So I don't know where to start in the line of questioning. It's because we are becoming you if this goes the way it goes. And so you went through this whole process that we're going through a couple years ago. So what do you think about it as a citizen of Fort Wayne?
Well, so the team is called the Tin Caps.
Tin Caps, yeah. Parkview Field.
Yeah, so Parkview Field. I mean, I very vividly recall in the beginning there being, they called them progress stoppers.
People
a lot
who
of
were
people
opposed?
having a hard time with it. I mean, I remember even hearing about, at one point somebody was saying they were going to put a huge highway straight through downtown and because of the stadium, and it was going to cause all this traffic, and there was going to be this huge slum. There was a lot of crazy rumors that went around, but I mean, ultimately it ended up being none of that. And I think it's been amazing.
It has been.
So Mary and Will, when did the stadium get built there?
It was 2009, I think. I've got it up on my phone here. Yeah, 2009 is when it opened.
Oh, so the year of your wedding.
They started building it in 07.
Wait, your wedding was 2008.
Yeah, it would have been in construction.
Yeah, so it was in construction. Yeah, and we got
at that
married
time.
just like a block away from it.
Okay.
Like-
Well,
But-
that was my last trip to Fort Wayne was for your wedding. So.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
that would have been before everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that area, I mean, downtown in general, growing up here, you know, I'm 38. I've lived my entire life here. Up until the stadium was built, downtown was after 5 on the weeks,
Nothing.
maybe even earlier on the weekends, there was nothing happening whatsoever. And after the stadium got built, I mean, this last, decade, 11
Mhm.
years now,
Mm-hmm.
downtown's exploded. I mean, not just the area where the stadium has built, but there has been huge downtown improvements happening in other parts of the downtown area that I know wouldn't have happened unless that stadium was built.
Yeah,
first.
lots of renovations. This is kind of up your alley, Lauren. Like lots of renovations on the older homes that are along. There's like 2 main boulevards that go in and out of downtown. And there have been tons of renovations of those like bigger older homes, which is
Those are the
awesome.
oldest houses in Fort Wayne.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been, because it's like right next to the river. So that has been really nice to see. So a lot of the houses that were originally like duplexes or they had turned into apartments, people are buying and turning back into single family homes, which is awesome. I just love it when people do that.
Now, I will
love it.
say there are people who don't think that things like that are a good thing.
Well, here, I mean, here's one of the issues that we're having the conversation about here is, of these renovated single-family homes, what was there before? Like, who was there? Anybody? Were they vacant, or was it a lower income bracket that was living in that neighborhood?
It was a mix. I
It is
think
a mix.
there's a lot of vacancies, and I mean, a lot of those houses were run by slumlords. They were falling apart. People were living in them, but they were probably not safe to live in.
shape.
Yeah.
They
I
were
mean,
in
we've known people in our younger days that were living in some of those houses, and they were just
Woohoo!
they were bad.
Well, I mean, because that's how our Fort Sanders is. That's the same kind of thing around campus. Is they are very cool, great old, beautiful houses that are just beat to death by the college students, obviously because they're college students.
Yep.
But there's no market to do anything better with it from the people that own it. Because why would you? Because all you're going to get is student lessees that are going to destroy it every year. But again, for us, one of the questions and one of the topics that's been conversationalized for us is, here locally at least, is that it's in the eastern part of Knoxville, eastern side of Knoxville, which is the lower income side of town. Generally speaking, is this going to price people out and force people to move? And that's one of our concerns. That's the only reason I'm asking what was there prior to, because even if it's a terrible house, it's better than no house or having to move all the way out of town and then have to figure out how to commute and stuff like that. So I don't know. These are the questions that I don't know the correct answers to, but these are the issues that we're discussing around the stadium project here locally.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's even still an issue. I think. I mean, the housing prices in downtown have gone up. I would say significantly since the baseball stadium has been there. But I think
rent.
Yeah, and even rent has gone up too.
But that's happening
So-
everywhere right now.
Also
too.
true. But for me, like, that's the point. Like, that's the entire point of doing this project, is to raise those values so we can raise the tax bracket or the tax base from those neighborhoods. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that this might not land for Mary and Will there, but I know Lauren will get it, is that's one of the things that's the most disingenuous about the argument for me, is that, you know, we have 2 of our larger fixed income housing developments right around where this is going. And it's like, well, this is going to be great. This is going to increase tax revenues and stuff like that. Apparently the study showed that like 70-something% of Smokies games in Sevier County were Knox County residents anyway. So it's our money staying here, at least better than going to Sevier County, which is a little bit of a plus. Yeah. But if the majority of the property, as it kind of grows out of the immediacy of where the stadium's going, is on a fixed income basically anyway, and it's going to be taxed. It's going to have some sort of tax incentive to keep the property value down so that the residents can stay there. We're not going to raise a ton on property values through the process of this, which to me is fine, except that's not what it's being sold as. That's where I kind of go back and forth on that particular one. I'm sorry, this camera is right square in front of my face.
That's okay. I don't know if you noticed a minute ago. I didn't know there was a cat over there.
Yeah.
Surprised me.
I've got animals everywhere, and kids. So that's how my life is. But anyway, I don't know. That's just there wasn't necessarily a question that was just one of those things that I'm struggling with as I'm paying attention to. Is they're telling us, this is going to do great for our taxes, but it's like, well, what percentage of the land that would, in Fort Wayne's case, for example, have gone up in value? Rents go up, all that different stuff up. The property tax goes up, which is, the second, but the biggest. I don't know exactly how it breaks down in the budget goes, but it's a huge part of the city budget is property tax. Mm-hmm. But how much property around it is actually eligible to be taxed at a new rate?
Well, there are neighborhoods and there are commercial businesses,
right,
that will go up. And for the people, this is not going to satisfy people who are concerned about housing access, but I had to go through an old study and look at some old stuff related to Austin homes the other day for a group I'm on, a committee, and there were only 100 some units in Austin homes, and the new renovations that are going on, there'll be over 400 units. So one of the responses to the concerns about housing is that those are KCDC units, so those are secured and permanently forever affordable houses, right, versus the ones that we do as low-income tax subsidies with private developers that have a 20-year cap on them. So, those have been multiplied by 4. You have 4 times as many units there. I don't know if it was in plans with baseball. I don't think necessarily, because I think those plans were nailed down long before this. I think conversations about that were happening back in 2006, long before anybody was talking about baseball there. So,
okay, and so all the subsidized housing, there's a process as far as eligibility for a tenant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it couldn't be like me and I just want to take my family down there because I want to live next to the baseball stadium, but I have a job and I have XYZ going on for me.
You'd have to qualify.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, I as we said last time on the show, and as I say 1,000 times on almost every show, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just asking questions. I don't pretend like I have the answers already because I don't. I mean, there's too much going on to try to keep up with the whole thing. So anyway, back to Fort Wayne. So again, one of the things they're promising us off of your model is a lot of other stuff other than baseball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do they got going on? Like, what's on the schedule tonight, right now? Why are you on? Why are you not there and hanging out with us?
Because we've got kids. But I mean, I can tell you, like I was saying earlier about downtown closing at like 5:00 before the stadium was built. I mean, to go to a nice restaurant 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we had to drive 30 minutes outside of town for like a nice.
But I mean, I think he means other stuff that's on the schedule at the field besides just baseball. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what do you got? So the reason this conversation started is we had a workshop at council, talked about the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
And I messaged Mary and said, hey, do you guys ever go to this baseball stadium that we keep talking about here? Because, I know people that live there.
Yeah.
And then Mary said, yeah, we go there. So when have you gone there? What have you done?
There's a ton of stuff. Sophia has had Girl Scout events there, stuff during the day where it's like scavengers hunt. I mean, it really is set up to be like a mixed use space.
But they've held to letting the public on there when there's nothing going on as far as open.
Yes,
like just in the middle. There
are like playgrounds and stuff in there too, and they will leave the main gates open so people can come in and do that. There's like public access.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
Public access.
Farmers markets.
There's a farmers market that's there year round.
Mm-hmm.
Is it indoors or outdoors? Because outdoors in Fort Wayne in the winter.
Yeah, no, no. So kind of like the field is obviously in the center. And kind of off to the side is a larger, like almost conference space.
Yeah.
And so the farmers market will be in that conference area. And then once the weather gets nicer, they will move it outside.
See, I don't know. That doesn't sound like what's in the plan as I've seen the drawings of to have anything
around it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I know there's the $140 million complex that he wants to build around it, but as far as the stadium drawings that I've seen themselves, it's just concourses. I mean, you could do a farmer stand down the hallway in a concourse, I suppose, but their description of like a conference center, I don't see that anywhere in the.
I haven't seen drawings that are fine enough, that are detailed enough for me to look at that, and I haven't paid attention to whatever's been released to the media.
Right.
There hasn't. I had a brief meeting.
I had the website
June.
pulled up, but I can't find it again.
Okay. And I will say the city is supposed to have a website with information starting next week because I've asked for that multiple times. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see, maybe look at pictures of how the Fort Wayne one is laid out. But I do know that in conversations with the team ownership and representatives of the team, they've talked about things like putt-putt and stuff. So apparently the way baseball stadiums are, I don't want to say putt-putt's the right answer, but the way baseball stadiums and activities in baseballs now is it's like a multi entertainment type center.
Yeah.
So like even like the UT baseball team, we went there for Hagen's classmate had a birthday party there. So there was like this area for kids to play and people to do other things during the baseball game. Because apparently people like the baseball games are like a side gig to all the other activities.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, but it truly is. I mean, like you kind of watch the baseball game, but there's like a climbing
There's a
wall
rock
off
wall,
to the side.
Oh, okay.
There's like, I think they have a bouncy house there sometimes. There's a
But the
playground.
climbing wall, is the climbing wall permanent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So like
And they have-
when the stadium's open all the time, can you just go climb on the climbing wall?
That I don't
I'm
know.
not sure
I
if you
don't
can
think
get to
so. I think they have people working the climbing wall.
Oh, because
so.
it's
I
like a
would
real
imagine-
climbing wall with like people rappelling.
Yeah, then you get
and,
strapped
okay.
in and you're going all the way.
I mean,
yeah.
and there's,
Okay.
you know, and there's obviously a staff member who has to man it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
supervise. So I would imagine it's not, there isn't any public access to that outside of games.
Okay.
But I'm trying to think what else.
I mean,
is
obviously
there.
there's always
all kinds of stuff.
concerts. They do concerts
Yep.
there.
So
They've
have you
done
guys
concerts.
been to a concert there?
I don't think we've been. I think we've just been to ball games and
Fireworks.
Fireworks.
Well, after ball games.
We've talked about
yeah.
that
Those
here, like 4th of July fireworks. And I will
I
say
mean, they do them after like every single game.
They do
here.
fireworks after every game.
that might be pretty unappealing.
Yeah,
to some
Smokies.
people.
I mean, Smokies at their current stadium, they do Friday nights. Every Friday night home game, they do a fireworks show.
Okay. I'm
I
not
know
sure that
that's a
people
thing.
that live near that are going to like that.
I mean,
Well, and like on the one end of the baseball stadium, they built condos. And
Mhm.
so they have the balconies for the condos that face in toward the baseball stadium. And they're expensive.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
I mean, we're gonna have. I mean, that's in our plan.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
but then
$140
at the
million
bottom on the-
development. But there are
and then-
conversations talking about some of them potentially being like workforce or low income. I'm not part of
Mhm.
that conversation or haven't heard details on that yet, but I know that that's.
So some of the housing that's going to be in the
I just know that that's been an ask and that that's a possible conversation.
I can't imagine that one's going to be answered with a yes, but
Yeah,
I understand. I mean, of course, I 100% believe that it's been asked.
Sure,
But, I mean,
100% sure it's been asked.
And then whenever I get Boyd in that seat, I'm going to ask him for just $500,000. Not a big deal. It's not nothing. It's not anything to you, sir. Just throw me a bone here. It's going to be an ask. Not that it's going to get answered the way I want it to, but we can all ask questions regardless of what the answer is.
I'm
But
going to employ you on my campaign if you like asking for money.
no, I hate asking for money. That's the one thing that's probably holding this show back more than anything is I hate shopping sponsors. I hate it. I
Me too.
don't like doing it.
Me too.
But apparently Matt Shears says I'm good at it, but I'm just
Okay, well,
but
I mean, you just said how you're going to do it, so.
I mean, and apparently, I mean, in the political context, apparently that works. It's just, hey, you've got money,
Yep.
give me some. But somehow I don't. There's a personal. It just doesn't work the same, like in personal, professional conversations.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
As
I'm
soon
not
as I
one-
start selling the chair for people to use in their own political ends, then it might be a little easier for me. But I'm
Gotcha.
trying to avoid that one. I actually have some sense of personal responsibility in what I do here. I don't try to be good at what I do, but I at least try to be consistent. I mean,
Okay.
that's what I'm after.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's stuff. There's lots of stuff going on. So you guys are happy with it, is what I'm getting
There's
from.
always stuff, like especially in the warmer months. I mean, you drive downtown, there's something going on at the stadium,
And they
even if
do-
there's not a game.
They
Okay,
do host high school games too.
Right. So what? Okay, so again, you said downtown had nothing going on. And here's one of the kind of one of the twists to me is like, what's the total population of Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Like,
Let's see. I got it here.
I think it's like
Oh,
the
man.
same. I looked it up one night.
I think it's probably close.
We're
here.
really similar.
To Knoxville.
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar.
Did you host the World Fair? No. Stop it.
I didn't say we're the same. In
No
that
one's close.
sense. We don't get lake effect snow either. Thank heavens.
Yeah, I was on when I grew up on the other side of the lake where we got the inverse.
Where'd you live?
I
We
lived
have
in.
about 300,000 people.
Okay.
That seems low.
Our county area is a half.
Yeah, that's
mil.
about right.
Or a little more now, I think.
Knox County is right at 500,000. The city of Knoxville is just under 200.
Yeah.
Which I argue Metro all the time, so it should all be one government. But that's a separate thing. Yeah, I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, so just south of Milwaukee, and so it's stupid cold all the time, and then 3 miles inland it's dumping snow. But as soon as it gets close enough to the lake air warms up the clouds, pushes them up, and we get no snow. It's still cold. It's still colder than damn it.
Just no snow.
But no snow. Or not much snow. And then they're good at it, so we don't get out of school or anything when we do get it. Like, they know what they're doing. The same with you guys for that part, not much of it.
I grew up in Georgia, so we got out of school if a flake fell.
Right. Like we do here.
Flake alert, time to send them home.
And so,
Flake alert.
I mean, so the reason I asked the population question is the image that you were drawing of Fort Wayne prior to the baseball stadium was 1995, 2000 Knoxville? Like after 5 o'clock, there was nothing going on downtown, all that kind of stuff. And it's been a solid 10 years now that it's been bars, restaurants. The Tennessee Theater's got that beautiful renovation that's been like 5 years ago, but it's still gorgeous. We got the Bijou. We got all the different other stuff going on. Market Square's always got action happening. And so I guess to try to keep pushing the comparisons to before, after, during the baseball project, was there a nightlife spot at all? Or is it just something that...
I mean, there were
a handful of places.
But you would never go downtown Fort Wayne, any night of the week, including a Friday, Saturday, and see people out.
But don't you have doesn't Alona play in like the symphony or something? You have like symphony orchestra theaters.
So we have the Embassy that is downtown where the Philharmonic plays, and there were, there's shows and all kinds of things there. But like that would, at the time, that was the only draw.
Yeah, well, and the vibe is like you go see the symphony, and you're probably going home after that.
Yeah,
there's not a lot else to do.
There were, there's before the baseball stadium. There were like a handful of bars that everybody kind of went to. There was the Embassy.
But was it like a college scene?
No, because
no.
the college, it's now Purdue Fort Wayne. It was IPFW, Indiana, Purdue Fort Wayne. That's a little further out from downtown.
Okay.
And there was the Pierre's Bars complex close to that. They had like 6 bars in one.
Oh yeah, they had like a comedy club in it and all kinds.
But
of
that
stuff.
was not urban at all. That was far away from downtown and mostly catered to the college kids. So there was nobody young downtown at all.
Gotcha.
It was really just you went there to work, eat, and places were open for lunch. And maybe
that was
dinner, and that was it.
Yeah, that's very much Knoxville of the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
We had the old city was a little more active then, but downtown didn't do anything back in those days.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying again because it feels a little different to me for what we're doing is because we already have it. Like we already have a very vibrant downtown.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff going on.
Stadium to get that. Yeah.
Right, and so it's what it brings to mind. The question is, what growth are we going to get out of it? Because can we handle more of a nightlife zone in the downtown region where we already have a very vibrant? The old city's not as good as it used to be, or not as active as it used to be. Maybe that's a better word. But we have all that growth up central, in the whole whatever the Ale Trail as they like to call it. By Schultzbrow and Fanatic, who is an upcoming sponsor. So check out fanaticbrewing.com while I'm whoring myself out tonight, apparently.
Delicious beers.
They are good. And I had Marty from Fanatic on Monday. We had a good show together. We had a good time. But, and then we have downtown proper, and then we have our campus life, that's where it's really falling apart. But my opinion of that's always been, that's been the intent of the university anyway. They don't like the Strip. They never liked the Strip. Any excuse they could do to slow down what the Strip was, because it's the front door. It's the front door to campus, and you don't want mom and dad driving down there on the first day.
Even like during the pandemic, because people were making a point of taking pictures, to see like these college kids like spilling out into the street at like 2+ a.m. I didn't go to a college in that sense. I went to Georgia State, and I was I didn't live on a campus, so that's like, whoa, look at that. People hang out all night and drink at bars. it's a little different than what I grew up with. So.
Well, I thought it was interesting. My wife actually works down on campus, and so I found it really interesting watching the news articles and stuff in the early pandemic portion of it, and the most cited, the most action, all the different stuff. Every time WBIR or Knox News ran a story on it, they had pictures of campus bars, but it was always West Knox bars that were ones getting cited. As far as I know, not a single bar on campus got cited for curfew violations or capacity violations. I'm not 100% on that. But
I think there were a lot of bars that got cited.
In the first couple of weeks, I know there was the police came in and they instructed on the updates and stuff. But as far as I know, and I could be wrong, as far as I know, nobody got fully cited. Nobody had to come. None of the campus bars had to. I mean, you're on the beer board for city, right?
I am, but so a lot of that.
Oh yeah, that went to the thing. Yeah,
it went to the legal.
Government's complicated. It's too complicated.
It didn't come to council. It went to the law department.
Right, but
so, yeah.
But I mean, we had is it Paul's Oasis and Billiards and Brews or whatever that's way out here on the west side of town. That each one of them had more citations than the combined rest of the city, as far as I heard.
Yeah, and I will say what was happening is that, so we're digressing here, Mary and Will.
Yeah, deal with it.
That's fine.
I would have people reach out to me. So you had business owners who were complying with the orders, and then they would drive around and be like, why are these guys open and making money and running business? And they're not contributing and they're not, being a team player and doing what the rest of us are. And just for the fairness sake, to level the playing field, they would call and complain. And I don't even know what businesses they are. Sometimes it would filter through somebody.
Right.
Be like, my friend that owns a bar who is complying wants to know why this one keeps getting away with that. But anyway, I won't comment on any of that. I'm not involved in it, but there's litigation going on, so I probably shouldn't talk about it. So, but
I could talk about it because I'm not part of it. The Billiards and Brew guy is suing the city because he thinks it's bullshit. Pardon my language.
It's your podcast.
He doesn't think. Well, I mean, but you're a guest. I need to be polite to my guests. He doesn't feel like we can get into the philosophical arguments all day. We've done it for a year and a half now anyway, but he doesn't believe that it's the right or the authority of the city of Knoxville or the Board of Health to tell him how to run his business. And so he just did it the way he wanted to do it, and he's pushing back on it. And it'll be fun. It's on my agenda list of things to talk about and watch and keep going on.
Yeah.
Because I have issues with it, but I don't want to go down there. I've done it too many times. I have issues with it as a whole. It's been a crazy, crazy year.
Can I say something on
Sure.
that topic?
Go.
So one night, fairly recently, I was with a friend, and we saw someone who owns an establishment that was not pleased about the orders during the pandemic. And there was conversation, and then I went home and I told my husband what they had to say, and he's a physician, and he had a lot to say. And I wasn't like, taking a position. I was just like, hey, I saw this person, this is what they said. And they're displeased. They don't agree with because they own restaurants in other municipalities, counties and stuff. And they just didn't believe it was necessary.
So were they dropping anecdotal data about their other restaurant that's not having problems versus the one here that's getting shut down that's also not having problems?
They had problems. All their staff got COVID. I mean, but I guess nobody died. So I guess that to them that's fine. But from the medical side of things, the response was from my husband. I'm not throwing him under the bus. I'm being blatant. I mean, he's very I have a lot of friends, obviously, in the medical field, and they get pretty charged up about it. And their responses, his specific response was, and he would come on here and talk to you about it. I can bring some docs in here if you want to talk to them.
We do it.
And they'll tell you.
Oh, yeah,
but
I'll watch that.
You'll watch that.
Well, come come down here for that road trip. Buy that GMC Denali, and then I'll make sure I have that show for you.
Yeah.
So anyway, his response was, "You can always make more money. You can never get your grandma back or your cousin or your, relative or whatever." Yep. These people who are saying this have not been there watching somebody die and struggle and take their last breath. Yeah. So when you talk to physicians who literally are watching someone die, and I will tell you, one day we were doing something with the family, I think on a Sunday. Honestly, I have a boat. We were out at the boat, and I needed to do something to winterize it.
Just a little flex, just a small flex, everybody, nothing major.
No. I bought it at auction. I know. Anyway, I bought it at auction. I grew up boating, so
fine.
it's what we do. So anyway, we're at the boat, and I needed to do something. So it's like you're untying the lines and you're like freeing the boat. And my husband was kind of absorbed because he had to order a study for somebody, and the patient died before
Right.
the study could get conducted. And he was very visibly upset about that. And I'm like, hey man, I'm really sorry. Let's grieve about it. Was a COVID death. I'm like, we'll grieve about this in a minute, but the boat is like moving and we need to address that at the moment. And then we'll get back to that.
Because you don't want me crying about our lost boat if you don't help me out
I
right
don't
now.
want to run into other people's boats, and I don't want to replace the dock and whatever. It just was,
So it was important for you to take the personal responsibility to protect others from your errant boat.
Right.
To make sure that issue was dealt with right here, right now.
And then we'll go back and we'll grieve for the patient. And what I will say about that is, I've been with Steven. I met him when he was a second-year med student. I remember when he graduated from med school and started residency in Indianapolis, which is where we were at the time. And I remember when he came home the day his first patient died.
Right.
And so, people who see people die and sign death certificates have a really different viewpoint on things. And obviously people who lost relatives in the pandemic see things pretty differently. So I'm really sorry this has been a financial hardship. It's been a hard year for everybody across the entire planet. It wasn't planned for. I mean, we've had an austerity budget at the city. We're potentially going to have another one this coming year that'll get released next Tuesday, and we'll see how that goes with the city budget.
That's gonna be a good time. I'm excited about it this year.
Are you? Okay.
I
Great.
usually don't understand it, but after a year of doing shows and talking to people, I can find people and hey, explain to me what this line means. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, we'll dig deep. You want to talk about
I've
it?
got
We'll dig deep.
I'm getting real dumb because I've got Virginia Babb coming in that's going to do the school board budget with me.
Okay.
And then I'll
I'm gonna tune in for that.
I'll have to find a city and a county. Have you listened to the Ron McPherson episodes?
No.
I've done 2 with Ron. The second one I had Jennifer Owen from school board with him is me, Ron, and her. And the most insulting thing all of Knox County people can hear is that I, according to Ron McPherson, am one of the more educated people on how the school board budget works. That you should feel terrible about yourselves as Knox County residents. That I am smarter than you on this topic because I promise I don't know anything.
So do you get all into like the BEP?
I'm trying to figure it out. I mean,
Okay.
I've got 2 kids in the system and the crazy year that is. I mean, my whole thing with taxes and tax use and stuff and that in general is that I'm fine. Okay. I generally argue as a libertarian. That's kind of where I lean if I'm going to have to pick a philosophy or whatever. But if you're going to take my money, I want to see it used well.
Okay.
And I think
that's a fair.
like I've got my general stance in going into all these budgets is I am open to the premise that they're good. I'm open to the idea that it's a possibility that they're good. I'm leaning towards they're probably not. I don't have any evidence to that yet, but my assumption is they're probably not. There's probably mountains of waste and there's mountains of things that don't have need or function or aren't, in my opinion, the responsibility of a government to do that have expenditures involved with them. That's my assumption on it, but I'm going in with the premise of they could be. It could be good. And I can even flex a little bit on myself and say, maybe I don't agree with that as a government thing, but I can see where that has positive value for the community. I'm open to the idea.
So you had someone come and talk about the school budget? Or
Not
you're
yet.
having
I've got Virginia Babb lined up. As soon as I get the draft copy, we're going to go over it
And
together.
I'm going to tell you that I am no expert on the school board budget or the school's budget. I will tell you that I am on the strategic planning committee with Knoxville Education Foundation. So we talk about school budget numbers, and spending for Knox County schools is like, we're actually the lowest in the state, least per pupil. And we constantly talk about we're one of the lowest third grade reading levels. So what is the job that we need to get done, and why do we have so many kids failing? And so there's a lot of questions to be asked there.
And on the school board one for me is like the only answer I ever get is more money. And it's like, okay, maybe. And again, I'm open to the idea.
Yeah.
I'm not saying no, but if that's the only argument, then we need to have we're not having a real conversation, because like I can't remember. It started with Jennifer Owen on the Speak group. Are you on Facebook? Speak, SPEAK.
Oh, yeah, I know what Speak is. I couldn't tell you what it stands for.
Yes, student, parent, educators around Knoxville or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was a thread. I don't even remember what the thread was on. And I started going back with some different people about some different stuff. And everybody's like, we need more money. We need more money. I said, how much?
Right.
Well, that's complicated. No, how much? If the answer is more money, then you need to give a number. If you can't give a number to follow up your how much, then it's always more, and it's always more, and it's never enough.
Well, the answer needs to be, and again, I'm not studied on this because I have so many of my own topics in my own wheelhouse to deal with, on top of my day job and my kids and my dogs and all the other things that I'm not an expert on the school budget. But I will say that the answer needs to be like, oh, well, we need, a reading specialist in each room, or we need a this, or we need a that. I mean, I agree with you.
Right.
There needs to be an ask behind it. And I will tell you, without being an expert on any of those things, one of the things that I think we don't do well in the state is we don't fund and we don't do enough pre-K education.
Right.
We have a lot of kids that show up to kindergarten not ready to read.
Right.
And who haven't been read to for different reasons. You've got parents that work multitudes of jobs and aren't able to spend enough, time reading their kids, and they didn't have this,
Plenty
that,
of
and the other.
English is a second language, and so they
There's a
can
lot of
they can read
reasons.
and been read to plenty in Spanish or French or something like that.
Right.
But as far as an English classroom, they don't have that foundation that
Right.
the number of other kids do. Yeah.
And so I will say, I have a friend. So I'm a librarian as my day job. And one of my friends who's a school librarian, she said to me one time, if a kid comes to me and they're 2 or 3 years behind in reading, I can only catch them up so much in a year.
Right.
You can't make up 5 years in a year. You can,
Right.
they come in and there's so many years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, as an aside note, say, Mary, don't you work in a hospital now, but you're a speech language pathologist, and didn't you work in schools for a while?
No, I am currently in a school.
Okay.
Now.
See,
I
you talk on about other expertise topics.
Bringing it back around.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Look
I
at
just
these Fort Wayne people here.
I just gave it over to I just gave the whole show away to Lauren. It's all good.
This school for what? 10 years or something now?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Has it
been
been
there.
that long? Yeah.
I've been there for a while, so.
Yeah. And your mom, isn't that what your mom did? And
yeah,
Aunt
Mom was
Sue.
there
It's a
too,
family thing.
So, what does a teacher in Fort Wayne make?
Huh?
What is a base pay for a teacher in Indiana?
Well, so they actually just, our teachers association just did a bunch of negotiating for us. And so right now they're looking at 40,000 as base starting. I believe prior to that, or kind of, this isn't in place yet, but prior to that, I mean, you were probably looking at 32 or 35 for a first year teacher. With a bachelor's.
Well, let me correct that.
So-
Okay. So Lauren asked under her breath while you were doing that, how much did you hear? The state allocates 48, but that is not necessarily what we pay teachers. And I don't know how that
How
exactly
that
works.
formula works
Right.
out.
The state says
Oh.
for every teacher we require you to have, we give you $48,000.
Okay.
And then like grade level, like first grade, it's like every 20 kids gets a teacher.
Okay.
But I don't know I don't know if the intent behind this, and I'm the one that understands this, people. Just remember that as I'm saying what I'm about to say. I'm not sure if that 48 is to include the other stuff, or if it's just for the teacher for said 20 students, or if it's 30, if the state says like 32 of that's for the teacher, and then the other 16, 18 or whatever is to cover supplies, expenses, that portion of rent for the building, utilities, and all that other stuff. I don't know exactly how that breaks down because even Ron McPherson can't really explain BP and how it actually works and what the state does by any level and how all the different funding things go. But yes, to clarify the answer, I don't know how much teachers get paid here.
I am excited to listen to your episode where you talk to another expert and dig into this stuff. So it's certainly, as a Knox County Schools parent, like to understand it better.
Yeah, and it's one of those to me, and it all started with me of talking to candidates last year for the county election and the state elections and stuff like that we had, because everybody talks about the schools, and I, like many of my fellow constituents, don't understand who's doing what and what the actual job is. And for a city council person, for example, to run on any aspect of schooling is zero to do with the job. So that's a flat lie on a campaign. And I've already told everybody, if you come on my show and tell me what you're going to do for the schools as a city county race, because we're going into city county races, I'm going to call you a liar because it's a lie.
Now, I will say...
Preface.
Okay, I will say the city does give a chunk of money to Knox Education Foundation, formerly known as Great Schools Partnership. And 202 funds, we give money to projects at schools. For example, Chilhowie Intermediate in my district needs, I believe, 30-something thousand for a new playground.
Right.
So I've given them, and different council members, we've given them a chunk of money. I gave them a few thousand. So in that way,
Right.
it's like, how can I support the schools in my district?
Right.
I do volunteer things with,
But not in the sense of you can't do policy changes. You can't mess with you can't mess with their actual budget. Like county commission can at least tweak budget items to some degree.
Can they?
I was
don't-
go.
Do you guys have that there? How does it work? Is that what you were trying to say,
Like,
something, Mary?
I mean, from my understanding, I don't think our city council I don't think that they have their fingers at all in.
Do you have city government, county government, and school board also?
Yes.
You elect your school board?
Yes.
Okay.
Huh. Okay.
Who'd you vote for?
Couldn't tell you.
I don't know.
So you're fine. I don't know who I voted for last time the school board was on the ballot. So.
No, I don't. No, I don't even remember. I couldn't tell you.
And you work with the schools.
Huh?
And you work with the schools. Like that's one of my.
Well, I don't work for the Fort Wayne community schools though.
Oh.
So it's a little bit different. So I work for a school corporation that's outside of Fort Wayne. So it's
Okay.
a little. I mean, it operates essentially the same. The school board is elected, but it's to a smaller degree. It's a rural school corporation. So there's a little less bureaucracy, I think, probably, that you might get at Fort Wayne Community.
Well, one of the things we have here that's weird in the school board budget thing is the way the state does it is we have this BEP formula, which is just fancy math that says we have X number of kids, we have this much money to spend on them, divide by however many kids, done. Mm-hmm. Except if you're a big county that has a large enough base to raise more taxes, we don't give you as much, and we take that extra and send it to rural counties that don't make as much, which I get on some levels, but then I don't at the same time. It's like if the BEP number says, I think it's $7,500 a kid. If whatever the legislature decides that makes that $7,500 a reality, I still don't understand that part either. But if that's the number they decide on, why would a Roane County kid cost more than a Knox County kid?
Because you have, I'm just taking a stab at this without being an expert in school funding, but you have a smaller population of students to spread expenses over. Like, for example, if you have a high school with 1,000 kids versus a high school with 500 kids,
I get that, but at the same time, you're talking about Roane County property values versus Knox County property values for 1,000. I use Roane County because they've got 3 high schools, I think. I know that off the top of my head. But how we got like 12 in Knox County?
High schools?
8? No, it's 8.
Oh, okay.
7 or 8, something like that. We have a bunch.
I haven't run for
Other
school
counties.
board,
Other counties around here have much less.
and I'm not going to pretend to run on schools as a city council member.
Because you shouldn't, and I told you so.
I know. But I will help you fix your potholes.
No, you won't. Not mine.
Oh, all right. I won't.
Mine are county.
He lives in the county.
I do.
Are any of your neighbors right here in the city?
That fence, the fence across my backyard is city, and then the entire main road out there is city, both sides.
So you could annex.
No, I can't.
You can.
I won't.
Okay, but you can.
Right.
Okay, I just touch and base.
Because I can, because. All right, so my turn to soft flex. I own 3 businesses. I have a day job, and I do a podcast. But of those 3 businesses, 2 of them have dumpsters that are part of my rent, and I have a pickup truck that's old and beat up. I'm not paying for trash pickup. I don't like rural metro, but I don't want fire coverage anyway. My insurance agent tells me I'm better off letting the house burn to the ground. So what does the city provide other than those 2 things to make up for the almost twice property tax?
Brush pickup, police coverage, which is controversial at times, but anyway.
True, but
okay.
I get the sheriff's office, and since I'm in county, I can burn my brush and have a good time.
Next to your city neighbor.
Yeah, and get called on and then have a fight with rural metro. You want me to tell that story?
No, I mean if you want
to. I've told this story many a time, but I'll leave that one alone. But I like to burn my brush; it's fun. But I had septic, and then it failed, and then state laws required me to hook up to sewage, which I'm not happy about. But I'm just a guy who has $10,000 sitting around, so I guess I have to do it.
Okay, so
Hey, Mary, how you doing? How's the weather up there in Fort Wayne? I'm not trying to grill you on it. I'm just telling you the story. I bought a house in the county on purpose, and I wanted it that way.
So I grew up on 11 acres in the middle of nowhere, 2.5 miles down a dirt road, and my dad still lives there. It's not dirt. The road's not dirt anymore, but
Right, but he has to take his own trash. You told me about this.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
we
my
talked about
dad's like, I like where I live, and he doesn't want anybody to be able to see where he's at. He's not doing anything crazy, but he just he's kind of a hoarder. But
He's in Georgia though, right?
Born growing up.
what's that, Mary?
I said we didn't have trash. We had to load up our trash into the back of the car and take it to the plant.
Yeah. Is that what your dad
used
did?
your
He took it to the
dumpster.
plant? Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
funny. Which is in essence what Seth is talking about. He takes it to work, right? Isn't that what you
Yeah.
say? You take your
Yeah,
trash to work?
yeah. My dad would take it to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I pay for that dumpster. I might as well use it.
Yeah, Mary grew up out in the boonies too, so
Yep.
But a little more, not quite as wooded as where I grew up, and nobody ever
Yeah.
wanted to come to my house because I lived down a dirt road. I'd have to trick people into taking me home from school, and it would happen once, and they'd be like, "Go down the other hallway, avoid that girl, make her find another way home."
Sad.
Didn't I run a bus for you?
Yeah, we had a bus, but
you had to go all
when
the
you're
way
in
down.
high school, you want to be cool. You don't
Well,
want to
yeah.
be going the bus, so yeah.
It ebbs and flows. It has. There was a stretch when I was in high school where it was cool, and then
Really?
it wasn't again.
Okay, well,
I went back and forth.
right now, I think buses are cool, like city buses and stuff like that. So, it ebbs and flows, right? You mature and you see things differently.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, Knox. We could get in a whole mass transit conversation. That's a separate one. That
It
I have,
is.
I
I
have
could
views and values on,
Okay.
but I don't know. I feel mildly guilty to Mary for just poking at her every once in a while and then leaving her alone for 15 minutes at a time.
I mean, it's whatever.
Tell us something interesting. All right, go away. That's kind of been the premise. But
well, I was going to say we could wrap up with them on baseball, whatever you want. We
I
could
mean,
get back to that.
I mean, I don't know. Like if we go back to where we started, it was it seems like it's been in your personal experience, it's been a very positive overall positive for your community. The team's still playing.
Yeah.
So that's the team's still playing though, right? Like because that's been a big
yeah.
argument here, because minor league baseball shrank a couple years ago.
No, this year, I thought.
Was it this year?
Yeah, during the pandemic.
Okay, so yeah, minor league baseball has shrank the number of teams that they're allowing to have. The Smokies are continuing from the current shrinkage, but is there concern? We're concerned that there may be future shrinkage, in that Boyd Sports is signing a 10-year deal this year to keep the Smokies franchise, which the Major League Baseball will have to honor to the end of that, which only gets us to 2030. But we're looking at a 30-year bond on this stadium project. So what happens if he loses the team for the second and third 10-year segments? And he won't even be in until he's 3 of that 10-year cycle. And so that's a concern of ours, but I don't know how we do. Like, I don't know how we value that concern as a
I think
realism.
it's part of the conversation. I don't think it's necessarily. I think you figure out what your guarantees are and how you cover yourself in the event of a pandemic. And like for example, I don't know what's been. Has your team and your conversation about your stadium been in the media during the pandemic? Because I'm assuming your games, your season were canceled just like everybody else.
Yeah, like I don't know that the team was necessarily in the media, but there continued to be, well, I don't even know that they were really doing anything in the stadium during the pandemic. Have they been?
No, I think they have.
They have.
Yeah.
We just haven't been paying attention because
No,
we don't
'cause
leave the house.
We've been sort of checked out of things going on.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's. I mean, obviously I'm sure that that's why they built in all of these extra things. So that, but I know that the farmers market has continued through the pandemic.
Which
know
we've
what else
had a
they were
farmer's
doing.
market. We have here, I don't think a farmer's market is a draw for our stadium because
Right, because the Market Square one.
well, Market Square, that's actually like a requirement.
Right, for their, yeah.
So,
Well, and we have multiple. I mean, so there's one at Parkview Stadium. There's one that's just a few blocks in
Yep.
another location downtown.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of peppered all around the city.
Yeah, we've got one that shows up in a church parking lot out here once a week.
People
Yeah,
do
like
pop-up
there's one
ones.
that shows up over here by our house, like in the Kroger parking lot.
Hey,
There's a
Kroger didn't pay me. Stop it.
don't talk about. Actually, don't. Well, I'll probably on air. I actually have a beef with Kroger. I don't.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
Uh-oh.
We'll do it on air. I don't care.
That grocery store that starts with a K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I stopped shopping
There's a
there
farmer's market
February
that
a year
pops
ago.
up in their parking lot.
That's interesting on their part to
So-
let a farmer's market in their own parking lot. That's a
It is.
It's an interesting
Well,
move
it
with
might not be Kroger's. I mean, because like the complex is huge, and so
Oh,
it's
I
just,
gotcha.
it's kind of like off to, it's kind of off to the side, but it's all like in the same. It's all in the same area.
Okay, so
But,
do you guys know? Because one of the big conversations on the project we're having here is management and income from other events. The way the way it's proposed, and I agree with it in the principle of it, is that Boyd Sports just pays rent, and they make their money off their baseball games. But if they rent the facility out for a wedding, or if they rent the facility out for a concert, or if they put on a farmer's market that they sell booze for the farmers or whatever, that's their money, not city county money. Do you guys know if that's how your project is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Those are really informed voters up there.
I could tell.
Who'd you vote for in the last election locally? Just making funny.
School board votes and
Yeah.
because I don't know, for me too, I agree with the premise of it needs to be. It's not something the sports authority should try to manage. It's not something that the sports authority, unless we're going to turn the sports authority into a paid position. That's a lot of work to try to keep up with an entertainment center, putting on multiple events, getting all the security, all the parts and pieces.
That's not a volunteer gig.
Right. Let Boyd Sports do that as part of their thing. My issue personally is I don't think $1 million is reasonable rent. I think that's way short.
So the initial offer they made on the table, the package deal they came with was $750.
Yeah, I don't think.
If I'm correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had Mark and Chris and Stephanie Welch on, and at that point is when the working number was about $1 million.
Okay.
And I used the word "about" strongly right there because it wasn't a fixed number, but it was like as we look around at other stadiums and stuff like that, fair rent or whatever, and whatever that means, fair rent. But other stadiums, of similar size and similar demographics and stuff like that, pay about $1 million in rent, and it's like that's fine, sure, great. But if I ran the math out, and I want to say it came out to like $1.50 a ticket because Boyd Sports or the representative at one of the meetings said that they're going to try to put on 200 events a year, 7,000 seat stadium. To do an extra $1 million a year in rent would be like $1.50 a ticket if they sold out every event.
Okay.
Which obviously, they're not going to sell out every event, or they're not all going to be 7,000 seat events. Some concerts will be 10,000 because they get to seat the field, and some, a farmer's market's not going to be 7,000 people that are paying tickets or whatever, but it's still, as you spread it out over the massive things, it's not a ridiculous amount that they would have to add to a ticket price or to rent for other organizations using the complex for the weekend or whatever to get it up there into $1.5-2 million, which takes all the most of the risk, especially for the city. The county's got it paid for, as far as I understand it, because they get to use hotel motel tax on it. So they already have a plan for how this county's going to pay for it. As far as I know right now, and I could be wrong, you could inform me on this, is that the city doesn't have a specific of where they're going to get the funding.
I think things have kind of changed, and we haven't gotten an update based on what the governor's proposing versus a tax district. So I will not comment on that because I don't know. What I will say about the stadium is that I started I'm a fence sitter on this topic.
Okay, hold on. Let's for clarification for everybody listening, maybe for Cousin as well. What district number?
Oh, 4th district. Myself?
Yes, and where is the 4th district?
Oh, we didn't even talk about this. This is the most schizophrenic episode.
That's how I do.
No, not at all. I listened to you talk to one of my colleagues a while ago on the way here, and it was very thing. I feel
was it the Gwen episode earlier this week?
I was listening.
Well, that one had a very specific.
Oh, okay.
We could.
Great episode. By the way.
Well, but there was the event was the entirety of that episode.
Sure.
So other than getting hey, here's the deets on who you are out of the way, because that's the first time I've talked to her too.
Okay.
And so I've already had people that are regular listeners and should be and subscribing and all that things, and they'll already know who you are.
I feel like you and I are like feeding off some ADHD here.
I'm on. It's been a long week. Okay.
It's been, oh Lord, it's been a long week. Okay, so for anybody since we didn't talk about who I was at the top of the hour, Lauren Rider, City Council, 4th District, which is North Knoxville up through Fountain City over to where the former East Mall was.
The new Amazon complex.
Yeah, you don't have to advertise for them. 700 jobs coming to the district, and Holston Hills wraps around to Holston Hills. So I kind of wrap around the 6th district there.
Okay, so you're northeast.
Yes.
of
North.
downtown.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Washington Pike, Buffett Mill, Alice Bell.
So right, you're adjacent to where the stadium is going, but you're not.
Yeah, I mean
that's-
it'll be walking distance,
Right.
but it's not in my district. Obviously, it's in the 6th. So as I was saying, I started out as a fence sitter, certainly non-committal. It's a big conversation, and there's a lot of pieces that aren't determined. So I can't sit here and tell you I'm a no vote, I'm a yes vote. Some of the things that have changed for me is reading and listening to things that are coming out of people who are in that community and have lived there their whole lives, like Theodis Robinson and Bob Booker. I think I mentioned that to you the first time I talked to you. And I'm kind of like, I need to be quiet and I need to listen to what these people are saying and hear what they're saying about their community and what kind of development they want to see in their community and whether they're embracing this and welcoming it and asking it. Another thing some people have said to me, a lot of people are like, this is East Knoxville. Then there are people who are like, I don't understand why people keep saying it's in East Knoxville. It's
downtown.
It's downtown. It's
Yeah.
the edge of downtown.
I mean, it's on the
So-
other side of John
but
Sevier.
it is on the east side, and
Right.
it does progressively build this building block of development that way. But the Urban League, I've had meetings with Phyllis Nickel, the Beck Center. They're all involved. It's my understanding is they're all involved. They're all at the table. They're having conversations, and working with the sports group on this. And when we have conversations about what happened with urban renewal and how so much of that community was demolished for highways and different things, it's like it's their time to be at the table, and there's a lot of us who don't live in that part of town that need to let them speak and let them have a seat at the table and let their voice be heard. And it's really interesting. I keep hearing people that are supposedly speaking for that community who are unaware that those people are speaking. Right. And so I will, when someone emails me that, I will send them like, hey, did you see where Bob Booker said this? Did you see where Theodis Robinson said this? And this is what the Urban League is doing. Do not presume to speak for a community that you didn't even meet with them and say, hey, what did you want for your community? So I'm really interested right now in watching to see what that community is saying. I'm not sure that it's my place to sit up there, closer to 275 and tell this community what they need and what's in their best interest. My job is to figure out, are we getting a fair deal for the taxpayer? And the other thing is people are like, the taxpayer's paying for it. The way this originally got laid out, I disagree. It was literally, if you want to go to the stadium and buy beer and popcorn and tickets, those taxes go to pay for it.
And they still will, even with the new thing.
And they still will.
Right.
But if you don't want your money to go to that, then don't go down there and buy beer and popcorn and tickets, and you won't put anything into it. And then the team, there's a lot of people that keep leaving out of the equation that the team's paying rent. And when I explained that to somebody who was really opposed to it, they go, well, why does everybody keep saying that everybody's getting taxed on it? And I said, I have no idea, because the team is paying rent. The people that come and use the facility will pay taxes that will go to it. And then it was a TIF on that particular $140 million, part.
Right, which that one is, I mean, we're all, the expenditures that those TIFs are not going to be contributing to, we are all going to be making up for in some sort of cut somewhere else or new tax or something that's going to have to make up the difference.
But those are monies that aren't there right now.
Right.
So,
and I agree. I think that's been one of the very mysterious clouds that kind of been over this whole thing. And that, I mean, I think financing and how the financing was going to work is always and only been the real conversation. Because for the grander community, not the specific community, I think for the grander community, most people like the idea of having it.
There's a lot of people in favor of it.
And again, and acquiescing to your statement of I am not in that local community to say yay or nay, and I agree with you on that, and I agree that their voices are important in this one. But in the grander version of it, I think for most people, they're like, yeah, it'd be great. It'd be something cool to have. Like, I'm not a big baseball person, but I'll go to concerts and stuff for sure.
I'm not a big baseball person, but when it's there,
I mean, we aren't either. Yeah.
And so like I'm down with the idea of it, and I've always been down with the idea of it. But it's always been the financing thing.
Yeah.
And it's been so.
It's fluid at this point, so we don't know.
And I think that's one of the most concerning things about it is it feels fast, and I don't know how these things normally pace, but it feels quick. That it went like, and again, I've been told a number of times, like Scott from the Compass, he kind of landed me like, this has been in the works for like 5 years.
It's true.
And it's like, okay, it's been in the works with those people. For us out here that don't know any better, because to me it was just here we go, the baseball stadiums, it's happening. And, and that's on me for not being as involved then as I am now and following and trying to pay attention to stuff. But that's like my stance for the show is that I'm average.
Right.
I'm an average Knoxvillian. I don't pay that much attention to these things.
Do you remember who you voted for in the last election? Sorry, that was my dig at Mary again.
I mean, I can answer. Yes, we did a whole episode on who we voted for
okay.
in the elections and stuff like that.
You know what most people's answer is?
I don't remember the red one or the blue one.
No. People are like, after you win an election, everyone voted.
Oh, for the winner.
Because people come and go, I voted for you. I voted for you.
I voted for Joe Jorgensen in the presidential election. I gladly voted for a loser in this one. I mean, they were all losers, but there's the jokes. And we all lost for it. See, I can keep this one going for a while.
Goodness. He's rolling now.
Yeah, I'm 2.5 beers in. It's getting crazy. And they're even light beers. That's the sad part. But I don't know. Like again, like I think that's the one thing. I think the financing is the one thing and for a populace of people that aren't very good at money anyway, to all of a sudden throw a very complicated financing thing on their plate and be like, how do you feel about this? What? Because like, what was it? Who was I was talking to? I think it was the first time I had, I don't remember who I had. I think it was one of the commissioners, and he kept saying service a debt. Mm-hmm. I know what it means now. Mm-hmm. But a year ago, service the debt.
You've got debt that you service, right?
I have a mortgage and I pay my mortgage. I don't service my mortgage. I pay my mortgage.
I feel like this conversation's getting a little weird.
I'm just saying, like, it's just, it's a term that works, and I get it, but at the same time, the lay person doesn't use that term for the same function.
Right.
So, like,
true.
for me and you and normal people, it's I pay my mortgage or I pay my rent.
Yeah.
I don't service my house debt.
Yeah.
It's just a weird, it's a weird phrase for a regular person. People that are in it get it. And this is one of my complaints with media in general is because they assume that everybody understands these kind of things.
Right.
And so they put these phrasings out. And so I don't remember who I was talking to. I was like, hold on a second. Explain to me what service of debt means. And I felt like an idiot because he was like, oh, you just pay the bill. I was like, well, then why don't you just pay the bill? Why do you call it service the debt? Why do we have to use new phrases and stuff? This is where I get lost and confused. And I feel like an idiot now. You guys are laughing at me. It's not cool. It's my show.
We're not.
No laughing at me on my show.
No, I get it.
But anyway.
I can't remember when I learned what service the debt means. I don't know.
Right.
I learned it today.
See?
You learned it today.
See?
How many days old were you when you figured this out? Or however that joke goes.
I was today years old.
Today years old. Yes, that one. Yeah.
Today's year. Sorry, I'm butchering the.
we poke back with you not doing the meme right. That's all
I
good.
know. My kids. That's what they would be like, Mom. They're all about memes.
I don't get it. Like my son is awful. Like everything's a meme.
Yes.
And it's like it's not a meme, dude. You just watch the video.
I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't understand. Like there's a line between a meme and a video, and my son doesn't know what it is. They're all the same.
Yeah.
But he's also 10, and he's going to live on the internet, so I guess he's going to be right long term anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, now that we've got real spastic, I don't know. Where do we want to close out? What do you want to finish off with?
I don't know. Well, I just want to say it's been fun chatting with Mary and Will, and I definitely want to go see what's going on in Fort Wayne because we have been there, and I guess.
I mean, can you expense it to the city? Make the city pay for the trip.
No.
Yeah.
It's research. It's important.
I don't roll like that. Actually, I think that was a point of conversation. People were complaining that people from the city had gone up there to look at the stadium, but I mean, I'm big into research. I'm a research librarian, so I think research is important. But yeah, no, I would flip my own dime up there. You know, we're barely paid to be on city council, more or less.
What do you guys get paid?
You have a place to stay. You can stay here for free.
See, I can go stay in their house for free.
No, you write her an invoice. I'll pay for it because I'm a resident. Actually, I won't because I'm a county resident.
He's a county resident. He's not chipping in at all.
I can say that. That's false. I spend most of my money. Most of my sales tax is collected in the city.
That's exactly true. Most of the county's revenue is collected within the city limits too.
But then most of the city gives it back to the county for the school portion of it, and it's wonderful. This is why Metro is a good idea, kids.
It's funny that you bring that up. I was at a meeting this morning where Haslam was speaking, and that was one of the questions he got asked was about Metro government.
Who asked it?
Golly,
because it was the retreat thing, right?
Yeah. Who was it? I really can't remember, so I don't want to credit it to somebody. It was like one of the commissioners.
That's me.
It was you?
It wasn't me, but it was me. I guarantee you I started that one.
Oh, you started because you're always like, what about Metro government?
Was it Biggs or Ward? Even though I was not going to say.
It might have been Ward. It might have been Schoonmaker.
No, I haven't had Schoonmaker on, so it
So
wasn't
it was
him.
definitely somebody that met with you. It could have been.
I mean, I've had
Biggs.
almost everybody. I've had everybody but Smith and Schoonmaker.
Okay.
And
I
everybody
know
I brought
was
it up to.
Smith. So I'm trying to remember which part of the room it came out of, based on where we are at tables.
Yeah, I've had Larson on. I've had Durrett and Lundy and
Yeah.
Ward and Biggs and Bustler and Hill. So like Schoonmaker and Smith and Daly are the only three I haven't had on the show.
Okay. It was probably Biggs or Ward. It came from that direction.
That direction.
Of the
One of
room.
those anti-board of health guys.
You missed the part where I said I was up till 1:30 in the morning doing my
Taxes.
taxes.
Yeah,
So
I know,
I'm like
I
a
recall.
little like fuzzy on
So that's
some
why-
specific details.
That's why with the soft flex again, 3 businesses, podcast, day job, and family, I pay somebody to do my taxes.
Oh, I do pay somebody to do my taxes, but I have to fill in my spreadsheets of my stuff to get it ready to go
Oh.
to them.
Yeah, I have a beautiful system where I just throw stuff all the time in a box.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here's my box of
Are
mess.
you bragging about being organized throughout the year?
I don't know if throwing stuff in his box counts as organized,
Oh,
but sure.
you're throwing it into a box.
Yeah, I just throw it in a box
So-
and then I hand it to her.
So my dad was a small business owner and usually had about 1 to 2 employees growing up. And my dad's not going to listen to your podcast, so I'm not going to hurt his feelings. He's really not very organized at all. And I remember when he went to go do taxes, it was like digging around the floor of the truck, the work truck. 'Cause
Sure.
He's a plumber.
I mean,
So it was like trying to find. Anyway, we could talk about that some other time. It's a very
you
sad.
can get my super libertarian hat on and I'll go crazy on you on taxes.
Yeah, well, so my uncle's a flat taxer. He thinks everybody should pay a flat tax. Isn't that what you call people who believe in that?
I mean, I guess
Not
if
like a flat
we could,
earther?
if we want to turn,
A flat earther. Oh,
if we want to turn, yeah, if we're gonna turn that noun of flat tax into a verb or an adjective, I guess in this case, would that be an adjective? Teacher, help me.
Yeah, you're talking about Mary or me? But anyway, I'm faculty at Pellissippi, so I'm an educator too, I guess. But anyway, and then my dad I don't know that he really ever pays his taxes, and so my uncle's
You
always
don't need to
like,
worry about your dad listening to the podcast. You need to worry about the IRS on this podcast.
Oh, they're pretty familiar with him. My uncle was always like, they're going to arrest your dad as a conscientious objector, and it's literally he's just too disorganized to do it. So, but
I mean,
anyway.
yeah, I find the premise of you owe us money. Well, how much do I owe you? I don't know. You figure it out. It's kind of weird.
yeah.
And then if you do it wrong, well, you owe us more than that. Well, why didn't you just tell me that in the first place? Like, think of is there anything else on the planet that functions like that? Hey, you owe me money. Your question would be, how much do I owe you? You figure it out. And then if you're wrong, I'll throw you in jail.
But did they really put people in jail?
And it depends how wrong you are.
Okay, all right.
Or you spend the rest of your life paying it off. Either one.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't get into all my family issues
I mean,
or whatever.
I've got a family that I used to work for, terribly disorganized. They had screwed up on some income tax back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I quit working for them in 2010, and they were still paying off like $600 a month.
I do know people that have had long-term payment plans. Yeah. So anyway, it's it is. I don't know. I'm going to agree with you. It's an imperfect system.
What a very nice way to say it.
Okay.
Beautifully
It's
nice way to say it.
Diplomatic, political. It's a pain. I will say every year my husband's like again, like it's literally like a fighting point. He's like, we have to do our taxes. We have to do our taxes. We have to get our tax stuff ready. And I will say the big issue for me is we have a couple of rental properties, not problems. We have a couple-
Also true. Both statements are true. It's good.
and I'm really disorganized about keeping track in a spreadsheet of like paying the guy. I pay the guy who mows the lawn, but like last night I was sitting there like, sometimes I did through bill pay and sometimes I wrote a check, and then it turned out a couple of times I paid him through Venmo. So I was having to
Find them all, yeah.
Yeah, I was having to
Oh, I feel
find
you.
them all and get them in my spreadsheet, and that's my fault.
Right.
But it's literally it's kind of like this side
So,
gig job.
Did you have any?
Is that
This
a
is
soft flex? No,
completely
just
off.
kidding.
Sure, it is. I mean, it's another thing that you do that makes you money because you go. But
no, that's the well. Anyway, that's another story. My
Well,
husband's
no.
like, we're not making any money off of these, but that's a whole nother
not
story.
yet. I mean, you sell those houses right now, you'll probably do okay.
Yeah, I would do.
The property
I would do
value
okay.
is pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous. But with all the pandemic stuff going on with the landlord-renter relationship, did you have to deal with any of those subjects?
No, all
Okay.
of my renters, and I reached out to them at the very beginning to just say, like, keep me informed if anything changes for you or your personal status. I have really great renters. I
Probably because you're a librarian and you looked them up and you know everything about them. Yeah, I get it.
you can just call me a stalker. No, I
Tomato.
I mean, I do know how to use the internet really pretty well. But yeah, I don't know, run credit checks, whatever. No, I have really good renters and I charge very fair rates and they stay for very long times.
That's the best way to do it.
And I love having long-term renters.
Right.
And they're great and we have very good relationship. I mean, I share a backyard with one of them, so we need a good relationship.
Right.
Because my dog's always over jumping on her, which she encourages. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
I had to lock my dog up because of your dog, apparently. But
Apparently.
all right, Mary and Will, I really appreciate you guys for coming on the show. If there's any last things that you'd like to get out, this would be your opportunity to do so.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, like, I know that you guys are in a different place than we were. Like, your city is in a different spot than we were
Right.
when we got the baseball stadium.
And that's
No,
one
and
of the
so I
points
think-
of discussion here when they compare
Yeah,
us to
I mean,
Fort Wayne.
and I think that's huge. You know, for us, it's easy to say, it's easy for us to say, oh, the baseball stadium was amazing. I mean, because it really was. Like, the revitalization that we went through because of that was huge. But you guys have already gone through that. I mean, and I think that you're right. I mean, I think that that's a huge point.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge point. I mean, the baseball stadium cost us what, $35 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
looking at twice that.
Yeah. And yours was
you guys are
built
looking at
in
twice that.
09.
yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at
and
twice that in an
within
area
5
that's already
years,
developed.
within 5 years, downtown was completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it completely changed the landscape.
Right, because
Um,
I think
but,
for
I mean,
us that's just not going to be the case.
It's not.
No, and that won't be the case for you guys. And so, I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, absolutely. It's, it's different.
One of the
It's different.
points that people make here, people in the East community, is that downtown has, or the Near East community, is, we have restaurants, we have places where people work,
Right.
we have shopping, but we don't have
Mhm.
like entertainment activity outside of like the theaters and stuff. And we do have a really
Yeah.
great entertainment theater, string of venues downtown. So that brings people downtown. So
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
apparently when I was talking to Stephanie Welch about it on that show, one of my I pitched Fix. There used to be a lot of concerts down in the World's Fair site. Apparently, there's some water issue, and so the only thing we've
it's
done
a
down
little
there,
muddy.
the only thing we've done down there was Brewers Jam for a little while, and then that got kicked out, and then the last thing that was still there was the 4th of July thing. But other than that, we've done about nothing on that lawn in a
Well,
while.
and here's what I'll say about doing 4th of July on World's Fair is we bring in a stage, we bring in seating, we bring in fencing, we bring in all these things that require city staff and equipment and storage and all
right, and
these
then
things. If we
squatters like me who aren't city residents go and enjoy the show.
But that's part. But you also come and spend money in restaurants or at parking garages, or actually nights and weekends are free. But I don't know. You spend money
Right.
downtown, so it ends up being a boon to the economy, and then it comes back to the schools, right?
Well,
through-
but we still got a special tax district for the World's Fair site, don't we? For the
is
convention center
is
remodel?
Yeah, it's probably included. Yeah, but you're not going to a restaurant in the World's Fair area. You're going to downtown restaurants.
Right, I don't
Is that
know
what
where
you
they
mean?
sit in the. I don't know exactly where the line
Yeah,
is
it's
for
the
that thing.
CBID, so it's the Central Business Improvement District.
Right.
The line goes really close to Central, or abouts to Central in the Old City. That's how far east it goes. I don't have a map in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly
So
where
like
it is.
all the Gay Street stuff would be on there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But we're on schedule to pay the convention center off early, thank the heavens. I wasn't here in Knoxville when that was all negotiated and planned and whatever. It certainly hasn't been. It's not a money-making endeavor, but we're getting where we're paying it off early, like about by 5-ish years. But the schools also get a chunk of that. I mean, we don't get to take from the schools' chunk.
Right, and that's one of the things
Yeah.
I think that's another one of those disingenuous parts of the financing conversation is that even with the original plan of the special tax district, the percentage local option was still going to hit the way it hits, and the percentage that the city pays into the county to pay for school stuff and then the county collects as well
Right.
would still be there on the school district part of it too. And I don't
Right.
think anybody quite understood that part conversation
No,
that you
because
do.
I do remember in one of the workshops I asked a question about it, and it turned out I had it wrong in my understanding of
Well,
it.
I wasn't pointing at you specifically, but
No,
yeah.
but I did, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oops, okay, I didn't understand that. That's what people were getting at." But that's the whole point. The conversation has been fluid. We are still learning. We're still figuring it out. There's a change now with how the governor is approaching it and the conversations.
Right.
That
I like
happen at
that part. I
the
think
state
that's a good turn.
ledge. And I think you can't say I'm for this or against this. If you're like, okay, I'm cool with the baseball stadium, but then how are we financing it and what's a fair deal for the taxpayer?
Yeah.
That isn't all ironed out yet. So, I can't say like it's a
Right.
done deal. I don't know.
Right, but I mean, as far as I gather, it's got to be it's got to be done before the election,
Well, I
or
think
pretty
that's-
close to it.
I don't think it has anything to do with the.
I know. I'm just saying time wise. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the time frame that the sports group wants, I think they want a decision like
September, yeah.
September-ish, whatever. I don't think that has. I mean, my initial reaction is like, golly gee, guys, thanks for doing this in an election year.
Right.
But we have enough other problems that, it is
Right.
what it is.
But I mean, it's yeah. But I'm just saying, I didn't mean that as part of the
Sure,
campaigning process, but just the
Sure.
timing of everything. It's going to be late summer, early
Yeah.
fall, because they want to start work in November, December.
Right, because they want to
And
get
if they're
going
to hit
on
that,
it, if it's going to happen.
right? If they're going to hit those their benchmarks to get it constructed and then open
Sure.
for the 23 season or whatever, they've got to get started. And so that's again going back to what I was saying earlier. It's like it feels like the financing, which is the only real conversation to have, other than do the people that live in and immediately around there want to deal with this as a neighbor. So there's only two real conversations that are going on. And the finance part is fluid, and we don't have we have a loose structure that we're trying to figure out. And there's a finish line real close to get this thing ironed out. And that's what's concerning to me, is it feels like that intentional or not, it just feels like there's a lot of moving pieces that are still moving around, and we have a short race left before we have to solidify these pieces into place. And how much public time and public input gets to happen in a tiny window. And that's the concern to me as I'm watching it going on. Because again, I started off as a complete no. It's like, no, this is stupid. There's no way the government should be doing stuff like this.
I started out as like,
And then I've come all the way to where you started as a fence sitter, as you said it. And I'm leaning towards, to me, it just, if the financing is the way it is and we get more rent than what they're currently saying, I'm on board. Like to me, that's the deal breaker. Not that my vote matters. The deal breaker to me is that we need to at least be in the $1.5 million to $2 million range for rent. If they get all the income for all the things, and they were going to do 200 plus events a year in there, the rent needs to be more. And if it stays at $1 million, I'm going to have problems with it. I mean, if it's under $1 million, I'm going to be
it
upset.
looks like it's making you twitchy.
Yes, but anyway.
I don't want to make the viewers think that you're twitchy. I didn't mean it like that.
No, I am. No, that's what it gets to be. It's like I don't mind the premise of most of the parts and pieces of this, and especially with the way the state did what they're doing. I think that turns out better for a lot of different things in the long run. It keeps all the tax funding rolling for all the different stuff and all the different departments from the state side as well as the local side, except for the immediacy of the baseball stadium itself. I'm sorry, the multi-use stadium itself. Its income still goes to pay itself, but everything else around it, the $140 million complex, all that stuff doesn't have to get involved with the complicated tax thing that they were trying to do, and that can just flow into the system like normal. And I think that's a net positive locally, personally.
I think one other super important thing that I want to point out that people bring up is that cost overruns. That's another thing people want to talk about.
Yeah.
We've said that would get capped. Like, we're not going to be like other cities. That's a lesson learned from other cities where I think it was one of the ones in like Alabama. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, so I don't know. I feel like it was them.
Sure, it's Alabama. We're in Knoxville. We can throw Alabama under the bus all we want.
I'm from Georgia, so we throw all the surrounding states
Right.
under the bus.
And specifically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever state or whatever stadium it was, they didn't cap cost overruns, and that needs to be that to me that's a deal breaker.
Right.
We have to cap cost overruns, because if your initial estimates were you're going to put these tiny rose bushes in, and now you want to put between the hedges UGA. Oh, that's probably a bad reference in the UT land, but you know what I mean. You want to go with something different, or gold toilets.
That's right.
Or,
You started off making fun of Alabama, so you can go. We'll give you a little bit of leeway on the Georgia.
Okay, thanks. You've got a UGA colored thing behind you. I don't know what you got going on there, but anyway.
Nice save.
Yep. Whatever your plan is, you want gold toilets, you want to have, platinum planters or some
Right.
seats or whatever. That's on you, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the sports group. That's not on. That's not part of the deal.
Right.
So that's really important to me, and that's been part of the conversation. We started with a number. And this is a really hard, and this is probably a dangerous conversation to have, given the way things went with the safety center. We just voted this past week on the cost overruns for that project.
Right.
So,
And especially in the housing market and all the raw materials conversation right now,
yeah.
I'm curious of how accurate that 65 million still is.
Well, it was 50-some million with 10 million of contingency.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So,
There's a lot of conversation to be had. You're right. It's a lot of conversation in a short window of time. But this is also how deals happen all the time everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're going to hammer it out and see if this is a go or not.
yeah. And I think one thing too is that for people that are loosely paying attention is that all the things that you're seeing happening doesn't mean it's happening. Like all the little parts and pieces, the governor changing it to put it in the budget instead of it being a tax thing. It's not that it's going to happen because that happened, but it's not going to happen if it didn't.
For some people, yeah.
Right. So if you're loosely following it, just because you saw the governor put a chunk into the state budget to pay that $13.5 million for this project, it does not mean that this project is happening, because it still comes down to the sports authority,
Right.
the city council, and the
Which
county
just
commission.
got formed, and they haven't even.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all
Right. And so
fleshes out.
it's just there's a lot of different boxes to check before that big final box that is, are we doing this or not?
Right.
But we can't get to the last box until we get these other ones. And so it's
Right.
because to me it felt like, okay, well, boxes checked, boxes checked, boxes checked. This is just moving
Right.
right along. There's a path here, and it's right along the path, and it's just going to go. Like it felt inevitable, I guess, for lack of a better word, to me for a little while there, until it was explained to me a little better as far as how it's not. We can say yes to this part, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen in the end.
Right.
All right. So
Well, anyway, I just think it's important to say we've talked about baseball now twice with me, and I'm not necessarily like a giant baseball fan, so I think it's funny that that's what we end up talking about.
well, it's
But
only because you brought family on. We could have
That's
talked
true.
about we
That's
have much less fun things we could have talked about tonight, given the current 2 weeks that we've had here in town.
I'll take a pass.
yeah,
I'll take a pass.
so
It's been I've
I'll-
already cried twice today, and
I
I'm not afraid to admit it. It's been rough.
Lauren.
I
It's
mean,
okay.
I spent I recorded about 15-20 minutes of me talking to myself after watching the body cam videos, and
I'll fill Mary and
I
Will in
can't-
later if they haven't paid
yeah, I
attention to
can't-
what's going on here.
I it's just for me personally, I can't rationalize so many parts and pieces of it. It's unexplainable to me to try to be like, here's what it is for those people. Like I can't. It's unexplainable.
So I will say, for anyone who doesn't know, my kids go to Vine Middle School.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that have happened here this past year, the kids that have been affected, the families that have been affected, many of them have siblings at Vine. They were at Vine at one point. The Vine, my kids' teachers are like, yeah, I had such and such as a student.
Right.
Maybe a kid that got arrested or a kid that got was killed. And it's been, we had the pandemic as a terribly heavy, obviously burdensome, disrupt everyone's life. And then this, and then the other thing people say is, why is this happening in Knoxville? What is going on? What's wrong here? Well, this is going on in lots of cities.
Right.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
right,
going
yeah.
on. It really feels like the world's on fire. My kids have been virtual for over a year now. Kind of Knox County schools. We had no school at the end of last school year, but my kids have done this full school year virtual. And this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is when they went in to take the TCAP. So I'm like going through the line, dropping them off, seeing the SRO, talking to teachers, seeing the teachers, seeing all the students. It's been a really emotional week, and I've just kind of laid low and stay out of it. I did watch the full press conference the other day.
I think that was. I think
and I'm
that
going to
was.
start crying again because that's just who I am.
I think that was a smart move on the DA's part, as far as I told you I was going to give you the tapes. I'm giving you the tapes, but I'm not just going to hand them to you blank. I'm not just going to figure it out. I'm going to I really appreciated for the grand conversation of what happened, that it started with everything else we know. This is all the information leading up to and the tapes, because the tapes in and of themselves without the context, I think would have been much worse looking than they are, and they're still not great looking. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
right or wrong. I don't even know. I still don't know how I feel about watching the videos themselves. But the whole thing leading up to it, with the text message conversations, with the body cam footage of when they were in the going to the girlfriend's house part, and those conversations, and all the other information that was going on around it, to how he got to that 11 seconds or whatever. I think that was a smart move on the DA's part to put all of that in one chunk to put it out, because again, I think the tapes by themselves would have been a much different story today of people talking about it in the aftermath if it was just the tapes alone without all the other context.
Well, and there's a lot of different people talking about it in lots of different ways.
Sure.
There are people that disagree about what they see when they see the videos. What I will say as a statement is, and I think a lot of people agree with this, and as to how you how you act upon that, or whatever, what actions come from that, is we failed as a society, as a community. We failed Anthony Thompson Jr. Many times along the way.
I agree. Yeah.
Again, I'm going to get upset, but people who know me. I've cried in council meetings, and it just, I show my emotions. It's hard for me as a mom, and my kids go to school over there. And, like a kid got arrested who was 14 for one of the other murders. And I asked my kids, I'm like, do you know this person? They didn't, because I think that kid was probably an 8th grader when my kids were in another wing. I'm making an assumption, but I think it was a pretty safe assumption. Anyway, and then one of the other things is the young lady that was killed in her front yard. I met her 3rd grade sister and had 2 conversations with her in one day, and it was really hard and really, really rough. And it's a bad year, and we are, as a society, as a community, we're failing in some areas. And I think what upsets me is so many people are looking for places to lay blame. We're angry, we're hurt, it's raw. But we have to figure out what to do right, where to fix things and make differences and make, meaningful change. But what's interesting is I think people want to blame like one entity, one thing. Like there are a bunch of people that's like, well, this is these city council people's fault. They're up for re-election. Get rid of them. This is their fault. No, we have so many layers of government here. We've got state and federal, guns. We can sit here and talk about guns. We can talk about so many different things. I'm just going to go out and say it because I typically put things out as I think them. I can't understand for the life of me when you watch all that video. I don't understand why no adults interacted with him other than, the text messages he got. Why no adults were interacting with him for hours leading up to that 11 seconds. And I have, really... that makes me really angry. It makes me really upset. And I have another mom friend with kids in high school. One's graduated and one's still in high school. Not there, but a different school here in town. I have a 6th and an 8th grader, so I'm not quite there yet. But she's like, oh, yeah, he's out in the hallway all the time. They're all out in the hallways. They're all doing this. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was not how I went to high school.
That's not how I went to high school. And so I don't understand. And I'm not trying to disparage the school or whatever. I'm just like, how many ways and places do we see that our systems are failing?
On that specifically, there was no wandering. There was you had to ask to go to the bathroom and carry a piece of paper with you to go to the bathroom in the middle of a class.
Well, and I will say I skipped school one day, and I had whomever I skipped school with and dropped me back at the school because my dad was going to pick me up, and I got busted by a student teacher.
Right. So
it was kind of like you just couldn't go anywhere without getting, busted. You had to be where you were supposed to be, or you got busted.
Yeah.
And that didn't go well. By the way, I had to tell on myself because she said, "Well, you better show up tomorrow with a note," and I had to tell on myself. And memorable. I wanted to die. It was not very good, and I won't get into that. But I just don't understand. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around. And it was
I agree.
painful.
Right. And that's the word. The hardest part about it is that for all the rumor and conjecture and all the different conversation before we had the information, I don't know that I have any less questions after.
We have a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and it's like, where are we going from here?
Right.
It's not one entity's fault; it's lots, and
Right.
it's like, how do we all come to the table? But that's, I know your thing is metro government, and Haslam was saying philosophically he thinks it's a good idea, but practically it won't happen. That's the short of what he said this morning. Anytime soon. But when people are saying, well, you need to fix this, like if somebody runs and says, I'm going to fix this in the school system, you can't do that from council. But then we put these police officers in the schools. We have these intertwined relationships between the city, the county, the school board. Like the county determines what the budget is for the schools, but they can't tell them how to spend it.
Right.
So we just have all these crazy, relationships where you don't have the power because somebody else has the power, and then you have the governor, and then you have the state ledge, and then you have the federal government.
Right.
And until we're all coming together and we're all like, willing to say like, okay, I don't agree with how you want to change it, and you don't agree, but we're going to come somewhere in the middle and we're going to make a meaningful change. We're not making a change.
Right.
It's not going to change, and it's not going to get better until we figure out how we're going to do that. And yeah, and I will say, I mentioned, there's a committee that I'm on, and that's one of the conversations. Like we keep saying we're going to address third grade reading levels, but we always say that, and we haven't made meaningful change. Like, what is it we're doing this time different to make that,
right? And then
happen?
Like the city website's a little better than the county one. The new county update made it clear, but like, there's the county has a committee on committees. They have a committee that oversees all the committees that exist in the county.
Okay.
And I can't remember who I was talking to about that one specifically, but it was like, yeah, we went through, and the committee on committee, our job is to make sure that they're functional and viable, and they have a need to exist. And of like the 7 that they wanted to get rid of, they were all either on charter or they were state mandate. So they didn't have the authority to get rid of them.
Okay.
All the ones that the county liked are the ones that the county created.
Okay.
But all the ones that they didn't like
Well, that makes
and wanted to
sense,
get
right?
rid of, right? Maybe I don't know what the time frame is though, because it's not this commission that made most of these committees. As far as I understand, the current county commission's only made one new committee, and that's the weird health thing.
We won't go there.
Yeah, we don't need to go back into that. We have enough topics we've repeated enough times, but that whole premise of like there's so many moving parts, there's so many moving pieces, there's so many people who have a direct say in so many issues, and for you and people like you who are involved in it that have a hard time getting through the web of mess, let alone me as just a constituent resident trying to live my life, do my day job, work my 3 businesses that I own, and do all those other things and have a meaningful engagement with my government, when I can spend whole days on the phone trying to find the right person to ask a simple question to. Because, well, yeah, it kind of falls under this office, but that particular one goes over here and stuff like that. Like we had a whole big tax thing. I had to spend hours on the phone with Nashville, calling around every office in Nashville trying to figure out a tax question.
Well, why didn't you call your representative and have them help you figure it out?
It's not an income. It's not a normal tax thing. It's I own a vape company, e-vape lounge, and the state of Tennessee does not consider us a tobacco company.
Okay.
Where other states consider vape products tobacco products.
I will say state schools do, and you cannot use those on our campus.
Okay.
I just know I had a run-in with a student in my library.
I agree. That's fine. You shouldn't. We never sold the kids anyway.
It was 8 a.m. I hadn't had enough coffee.
No, you were right. You were right to boot, but that's an aside. But I don't know. That's a
the mean librarian. Get out of here! No vaping in the library.
Anywho, it was a whole big process because whatever the second COVID bill that Trump did right after election or after he lost the election, with the 6,000-page omnibus crazy bill, deep down in there was a vape shipping thing.
Okay.
And to be able to ship vape products, really what it did was killed online industry, which I'm not particularly mad at because I have a brick and mortar. But some states are for a vendor to ship stuff to it, certain states are requiring your state tobacco permit. And so a bunch of vendors are calling me asking for our tobacco permit. It's like, we're in the state of Tennessee that didn't require that. But I had to go through a whole, literally 6 hours.
Because of the federal government.
Right, but 6 hours of calling around Nashville, Department of Revenue in Nashville, the Secretary or the Agriculture in Nashville, all these different departments in Nashville trying to figure out who would oversee this particular sub issue, and finally found the one guy in the one office, left him a voicemail, and then he calls me back the next day. He's like, yeah, you don't need it. It's like, okay, cool. How do I answer that to a vendor that's calling me saying I do? He's like, just give him my number. It's like, okay, cool. I mean, if you put in the time, you can get government to work for you. You just got to put in the time, and it's pretty crazy. But anyhow, I've tried to quit the show like 3 times. I'm having too much fun.
I'll stop talking.
Right.
You're having beer. I'm drinking coffee.
I'm having I joke all the time. I could do this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Like that's I
am a talker. I had somebody email me the other day, said they were going to call me for 5 minutes, and I should have emailed them back like, no one's ever done that.
You better set aside 30.
That's exactly what happened. It was a great conversation, though.
But I mean, yeah, I'm trying really hard to get myself fired from my day job so I can do this full time. Because this is the most fun thing ever to me.
What was your paid ad again? You need to
865autos.com.
Okay.
Check them out. They have that giant 2000
the Denali?
that giant Denali monster truck you should go buy.
Yeah.
I'll show you the picture right now. Anyway, we're going to do an outro, and I'm going to show the picture while we're doing the outro.
Okay.
Woo! Lauren Rider and family, everybody. And that GMC Denali, that giant truck, you should go buy it at 865 Autos. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Look us up, help us out, tell your friends about us. We're going to keep working through all the different topics. I really appreciate Lauren and family for coming on. It's really neat to get an insight from what is our model. That's what they keep referencing, that Fort Wayne thing as the model that we want to be and we want to look like. And so that was a pretty solid endorsement from our friends in Fort Wayne just now. But we're almost in agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website is live at almostinagreement.com. We're coming back with a big show tomorrow with the 3 ridiculous friends of mine for one of those shows. I've got a bunch of stuff lined up coming in the next few weeks as well. Like, share, friend, all those kind of fun things. And I'm going to escort Lauren out, and we're going to have a great day, and we appreciate y'all for coming. Have a good night.